Welcome to the Fear and Greed Afternoon Report for Thursday, the 14th of April 2022. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon we bring you the 5 news items that happened today that you need to know about. Before I go too much further, a very quick reminder that if you're a regular listener to Safe Word by Fear and Greed, our weekly look at the lighter side of business, you can now find it as a separate podcast. Search for Safe Word by Fear and Greed on your podcast platform and hit subscribe. There's a new episode out today. Right, let's jump into it. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 closed up 0.6% today to 7,523 points, mirroring a pretty strong session on Wall Street. The materials companies, tech stocks, utilities, industrials and energy groups all did well, but the all-powerful financial sub-index went backwards. Otherwise, it would have been an even better day for the market. Among the large caps, BHP, Fortescue Metals, Woodside and Santos all jumped more than 1%. Gold Digger Newcrest Mining was up 2%, while James Hardie Industries, which had been sold off, rose 3.5% today. National Australia Bank and Westpac both lost about 0.5%. It was a good day for the travel and tourism sector with strong airline results out of the US, helping the whole sector. Qantas ended the day up 6.6%, Webjet jumped 7.2%, and corporate travel management was up 5.5%. It wasn't such a good day for Bank of Queensland. Its share price fell more than 6% after it released a disappointing half-year result. Story number 2, labour force figures released today show that the pace of Australian jobs growth slowed during March, which isn't unexpected given the clip it's been running in previous months. Employment was still up by 18,000, which isn't a bad result. Employment growth is sitting at 2.6% and the unemployment rate is unchanged at 4%. While some were hoping the rate might fall into the threes, it's still at its lowest level since 2008. In short, the labour market is strong, very strong, thanks to the economic rebound post-pandemic and the closing of international borders, which has reduced the supply of labour. What's it all mean for interest rates? Well, the consensus view remains that the Reserve Bank will lift interest rates in June this year. Story number 3, election. Undecided voters are leaning towards Scott Morrison, believing he is the least bad option, according to focus research conducted for the Financial Review. In a kick for opposition leader Anthony Albanese, the research shows he's regarded as dull, disinterested, uninspiring, and too negative. The views on Prime Minister Scott Morrison are largely, but not entirely, negative as well. The research work by Ipsos has led researchers to conclude that the May 21 election will be much closer than the polls suggest. In electioneering news, Prime Minister Scott Morrison was in Tasmania when one of the cars from his security detail had an accident with another vehicle and rolled off the road. The 4 people in the vehicle have been taken to hospital and Morrison cancelled his events for the rest of the day. Opposition leader Anthony Albanese was forced to clarify comments that Labor will continue the policy of not allowing illegal refugees into Australia by turning back the boats. Story number 4. Ahead of the Easter long weekend, the horror stories at the nation's airports continue with long queues throughout the day. Today was forecast to be the busiest day for domestic travel in 2 years at Sydney Airport, with more than 82,000 passengers expected to pass through. Brisbane Airport was expecting to process 56,000 passengers, while Melbourne Airport says it will process around 380,000 people over the 4-day long weekend. Staff shortages seem to be the main reason for the slowness at the moment. Now, queues in Sydney stretched outside the terminal doors by 7 a.m. this morning, and staff were handing out water bottles, free coffee vouchers, and Easter eggs. Domestic passengers were asked to show up 2 hours before their flights. There were reports that more than 100 staff from Qantas head office were brought in to work at the Qantas and Jetstar terminals. And finally, story number 5. Broadband network owner Unity Group has entered into a binding $3.6 billion sale deed with a consortium including New Zealand's Morrison & Co. and Canada's Brookfield Asset Management. Talks have been going on for about a month or so, and the $5 a share offer will now be put to shareholders after the Unity board recommended the bid. Last month, Unity ended talks with another bidder, Macquarie Asset Management, concerned that sensitive information could leak to Macquarie Asset, which is a competitor. Its share price, that's Unity's share price, finished up 3% today. That's it for the afternoon report for the 14th of April 2022. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Weekend Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.